Well, thank you guys so much. Bring it in one more time. I really love being out here. It's really nice to meet you guys.
This is Larry Waller and his wife Cindy, the owners of the Walrus Shoe and Leather Company out of Delavan, Wisconsin. Earlier this year, Weston and Taylor flew out to meet Larry and his wife to purchase some awesome old shoemaking equipment. Larry had quite the collection of tools in his big red barn from his decades as a shoemaker and leather worker. Heck, he even fired up the old forklift and helped us load everything onto the truck. Awesome old guy. Once everything was loaded up and ready to go, Taylor hopped in the rented Penske and drove all the way back from Wisconsin to Salt Lake so we could unload everything and get them situated here in the shop. And among all the super awesome equipment was this rusty, probably around 100-year-old lasting jack that had been sitting out in the field for at least a handful of decades. So we figured this would be a great project to restore so that this piece of equipment can get some new life and get some good use here in the shop. It's also a really fun way to say thank you to Larry and Cindy for passing on their awesome tools and knowledge to us here at Reassembly. We're really happy we can save a piece of their history and their story with this restoration. So let's get this old rusty lasting jack cleaned up and ready for work again. And if you're sitting there asking yourself, what in the world is a lasting jack? What does it do? What is it for? I'm sure you're not the only one, so here's a quick description. Jacks like this were used, and still are, in varying shapes and sizes and forms, to help with the lasting process of boots and shoes. So the last is the foot-shaped form that the upper of the boot is wrapped and stretched around to give the boot its shape. These jack stands allow the bootmaker to strap the boot down tightly while working and offers a nice rigid structure to hammer down nails or rip off outsoles or welts during an outsole resole process. We asked Larry when he had purchased this lasting jack, and he told us he had gotten it at an auction from the Freeman Shoe Corporation about 35 years ago. And where it was before then, who knows? And honestly, any information on these things is really hard to come by. Even on the internet, in my research, very hard to find any solid information about styles or patents about these things. So if any of you internet sleuths out there have any sort of information, please feel free to share in the comments. But we reckon it's got to be close to 100 years old, if not older. You'll also notice that pretty much every moving piece, or at least piece that was supposed to move on this jack stand, was completely seized up with rust. But nothing a little magic juice, aka WD-40, and some wrenching can't fix. So you'll notice me here just lubing everything up and wrenching on it to get everything unjammed and unseized and break this thing down. And honestly, this is actually one of my favorite parts of any restoration process. I really like getting to break everything down into pieces, getting to see how everything works, getting to see all the little intricacies of how these things are built and how they're designed and what they're designed to do and all their functions. It's really cool. So I really like getting everything lubed up and taken apart and get to see that blown up piece by piece perspective of cool old equipment like this. Little pieces like this little wood dowel that was on one of the bolts that allows the leather strap to, spin over it. All these little pieces I really wanted to keep and restore and reuse on the final version of this lasting jack. Obviously, some of these pieces aren't in very good working order, but a lot of them, we'll for sure be able to reuse a lot of these screws, a lot of these bolts, nuts, buckles, everything we can. I'm definitely going to try to reuse. This right here took me and Taylor forever to get unstuck. That thing was basically one solid piece. But now everything's broken down and we're gonna start putting everything in a rust bath. So all these smaller pieces, we're just gonna dump some evapor rust over top and hopefully let some of that surface rust come off. We're gonna do the same to all these little pieces. Just put them put them in a jar and filled it up with Evapo-Rust and let those sit for a minute. Now all the big pieces of the jack itself, I sprayed with some degreaser just to, after the initial dry brush, just to kind of get a nice clean surface to work with, kind of see where all the real rust was and how much damage there was. And then after that, I switched over to this petroleum jelly rust stripper, which I had actually never used anything like this before. So I was mostly just curious to see, you know, what effect it would have on this thing and exactly how much rust it could strip or would strip. So after the quick degrease cleaning, I slathered on some of this jelly, and we'll see how it turns out. So after letting those sit with that jelly on for a while, I came back and it was all really gummy. It had broken up a lot of the rust, but it had like this weird film over it and it was really gummy and goopy. So I figured, well, we kind of needed to get them clean again so I could see what was really going on and how much rust and paint that stuff had actually stripped off. And it worked, but honestly, you probably could have just skipped this step and gone straight to, you know, grinding the rust off. So I don't know how well it worked. You can see here after it was cleaned and dried. It definitely pulled some stuff off, but all that white gunk kind of showed up, which I thought was interesting. And then here again, just taking all those little pieces and cleaning them up, getting all these threads nice so we can actually slip some bolts and nuts onto these things. And then of course, here I am just with a grinder and a wire cup, really getting into it and taking off the bulk of all this flaky paint and rust. This is another one of my favorite parts, is getting to see just steel, man, cast iron, steel, metal. It's so cool, and it has such cool properties and qualities. It's cool to get to, I mean, right here you see me shaping this. It's just cool to see something that looked kind of beat up look new again, to some degree. So here I am just taping everything up, getting everything prepped for paint. We're gonna go with a nice yellow on all the accent pieces, all the moving pieces. Went with a yellow just to kind of differentiate from the base itself. And then for the base itself, I just chose a nice dark green. Essentially just it was like the same type of green that was on these originally, I believe. This wood piece I'm going to top with some rubber. Now I'm assuming, you'll notice when we put this back onto the jack, I'm assuming that this thing is just used as like some sort of dampener for when the lasting jack is closed and you're hammering down onto the top of the boot. I believe this just acts as some sort of dampener to mitigate some noise or some shake or some of that hammering. That would be my best guess. If anyone else knows, let me know. And then this is making a new post that the toe of the boot will rest on. So I cut up some old outsole as like my foam piece, and then I'm gonna wrap it all with leather. So when you're lasting a boot or working on a boot on this lasting jack, this leather wrapped post will protect the boot to some degree. So here we are with these two wooden dowels that allow the leather strap that you tie the boot down to. They spin on those dowels. So I just glued them back together. I probably could have made new ones or, you know, done something else. But again, I wanted to use everything that I could from the original. And like always, thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you so much for your support and comments. You guys really are the only reason we're able to do videos like this. This was a really fun restoration, a really fun build. It was really cool to get to meet Larry and Cindy, get to hear their story, get to see their life's work, and get to take a piece of their story and their history and make it our own and restore it here on the channel for you guys. So again, huge thanks to Larry and Cindy, huge thanks to you guys. Hope you enjoyed. Leave all your comments and questions in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.